You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday of getting back at you.
We're living in a very dangerous time right now, and liberalism has lost their cotton-picking mind.
The Trump folks, if they found out how we knew what we knew about the Trump staff dealing with Russians, that they would try to compromise those sources and methods.
Nobody ever said anything about resisting Obama. They went at him on legitimate arguments.
I really do believe that much of what you saw coming out of Trump's mouth was a play from Putin's playbook.
Welcome to the Abolitionists Roundtable, your all-access pass to exposing fake news, the resistance, and the global elite's shadow government undermining American progress. Be a part of the conversation at 734-822-1600. And now, your all-American hosts, Del Marsh and Phil Stargell.
And good morning. The Abolitionist Roundtable of Michigan is on the air, and I'm your host this morning, again, Phil Stargell. And we are going to go into some of the things that have been going on this past week. I'm going to begin with a gentleman that made an appearance on our show, I believe, 2 times. He's a former state senator and just a great man in my estimation, because he talks the truth about the Democrat Party because he lived it. He knows some of what the Democrats have done and what they've been able to do. And he's got a website, and I happened to see his face, and I said, well, I'm gonna just give you a little bit of insight in what's going on. He understands it very well, and I'm gonna try to see if we can get him on the air in the next couple of weeks coming up in in April. His name is Elbert Guillory, and he's a former state senator in Louisiana. And he says that the conservative brother Ben Carson is being sued by the Jim Crow Democrats. And it's exactly what I say. I mean, people believe that black Americans are African Americans, which I don't use for myself, but African Americans use the term that they vote probably in the plus 90% range for Democrats because the Democrats have the interests of black Americans in their and that is why they vote in that 90% range for Democrats. And Mr. Guillory understands that that's not the case. They don't have African Americans or any other group of Americans' interest in mind. They have their interest in mind. Everything they do is to make sure that they can acquire, maintain, and wield power. Yeah, I said wield. They don't share power. They wield power. So when people say that the Democrats are looking out for them, they're looking out for themselves. And the power that comes with owning the government. And events of today shows very clearly that regardless of what position Republicans attain, that the government is in firm control of the Democrat Party. And if anybody doesn't believe it, just look at the mess that we have with the investigation of the president that walks in and he's being blamed for Russia tampering with our elections. He's being blamed. He wasn't in the president's office when they understood that there was some shenanigans being performed by the Russians. It was, guess who? Barack Obama was in office. And who gets the blame? President Trump. Hillary gets a free pass. Her people have been doing all of the nonsense that they could do, and the FBI and all the investigators gave her a pass and walked right by and brought all of the dogs out on President Trump when he won the election. But just to give you an idea of why I thought it would be good to pass this information on, because it is right on your internet, and it says he's got a website called Elbert Guillory's America, and some of the things that he said is that the Democrats are suing Ben Carson for holding a Bible study in the White House. So, we talk about the events in Florida and how the Democrats had decided that they would like to repeal the Second Amendment. But see, the thing is, they've already, in my estimation, repealed the First Amendment. So a lot of people say, well, the Democrats, if they get the chance to repeal the Second Amendment, then they're going to go after the First. No, they've already been after the First. They've got it to the point where if you say anything that they don't agree with, the first thing they come up with these terms: "Oh, you shaming people, you're racist, making racist statements, you're supporting white supremacy," and all of this nonsense. But what the real deal is that the Democrats have figured out all you have to do is align yourself with people that really don't care about the Constitution and people that don't care about law, the rule of law. The two main pillars of a society like ours, like America. People continue to tell you that this is our democracy. No, it is republicanism. And democracy is what they would like to change this country to on their way to socialism and communism. And it's no better borne out than when you see all of the hubbub that's going on around this enough or whatever it is that's coming out of Florida with the young gentleman Hogg. Somebody called him Camera Hogg. So I don't know how they got away with saying it, but because Laura Ingraham made a statement, and she might even end up, who knows? I mean, they really came at her. I'm going to get to that in a minute, but I want to go on with Brother Guillory here. And the fact that for holding a Bible study in the White House, I don't see anything wrong with holding Bible study in the White House or wherever. But again, we are showing day after day that rights are being taken away, denied, or delayed on the part of American citizens constantly. This is going on day by day. So this is your First Amendment being torn up and shredded and threw out for some new form of social media or whatever, where people can say anything about you, against you, But if you say anything back to defend yourself, or to maybe just have a little sport, you know, a little fun, and now they've got that. Oh, you know, you're shaming people, or as one of the sponsors of Laura Ingram's show said, they don't look good on people bullying people or shaming people, you know, and so they pull their sponsorship. So what we find is that the First Amendment is only applying to certain people or certain groups, and anybody else that could be construed as stepping or shaming or stepping on their space or invading their space. I don't know how you invade somebody's space over a typewriter, but this is what they call it, and they are causing real harm against people for saying some pretty benign things. I'm going to give you the quote that Laura Ingram did, but we're going to look at Guillory. What he says is, if that brings a smile to your face, then you're no better than the godless, race-baiting liberals like Pelosi, Crooked Hillary, and Al Not So Sharp Sharpton. Now, I'm sure that there's a lot of people on the left that are just waiting to figure out how they can get back at Guillory for saying that. And then he goes on, you know, the same kind of race pimps who call me and Uncle Tom a uppity Negro and an Oreo, just because I abandoned the Democrat plantation party and urged all my black brothers and sisters to do the same. But if you agree with Dr. Ben Carson like I do when he says I will not stop being a Christian while in service to this country, then I'm hoping you will help fight back right now by, he says, signing the In God We Trust support letter to the good doctor. And I see absolutely nothing wrong with that, but I can guarantee you that there's going to be some blowback from it. And he also says that the Jim Crow Democrat slave masters are whipping Dr. Ben Carson into silence. Well, you know, I have said several times in the last year, and more increasingly, that the black presence in the Trump administration should be a little more vocal, and I say that in light of the fact that Omarosa did some pretty rough stuff after she was let go, and I'm sure that the story, if it ever comes out, is not going to be a pretty one. But before any of this happened, there should have been more of a presence of Omarosa and Dr. Ben Carson in terms of speaking up, unless they felt that something was going on that they didn't agree with. Then in that case, I would have hoped, and I would suggest that they should have stepped down. But if you're not going to stand up and defend your position vocally in a time such as this, when every corner of the American society seems to have some arrows pointed at the President of the United States right now, Donald Trump, I think that he does a good job in defending himself, but it would be a little bit of a comfort to see some of the conservative black presence that is in the White House staff. It would be nice to see them come out and and not so much defend, but defend the principles that he's trying to put forth. You don't have to defend him. He's doing a good job defending himself. But you can get out there like he's doing and say, I'm a Christian, and I'm going to not quit being a Christian because I'm in the government, because that is what the Democrat Party did, and we all saw it at the convention when they put God out of the Democrat Party, not once, not twice, but 3 times. They denied the presence of God in their platform. And so we saw this. And now they are going to try to insist that Republicans be anti-God also, because that's what they are. And make no mistake, when you're anti-God, you are anti-America. And there's no other way around that. And I'm glad that Dr. Ben has made a statement saying that he's not going to deny like the godless Democrats did. And I applaud him. But I wish he'd be more vocal. And I'm a little bit more defensive of the principles of this country, like our Constitution, like family values that he stands for. Because in my estimation, the fact that America has gotten so far away from traditional family values in this country, that is the main cause of the problems in America. If you don't believe it, if you look at immigration, legal and illegal, the reason why there is a sneaky backdoor way of allowing illegals into the country on both sides, both parties, the Republicans and the Democrats, is because we actually need immigration because of our abortion on demand policy, because we are not producing enough of our own American kids to do the things that need to be done. We see in Detroit the leadership in the Democrat Party in Detroit are constantly talking about the poor conditions of the schools and things like that, and the school closing. And they want to blame Betsy DeVos, of all people, for charter schools. And then you got some obscure Democrat congressman that stood up and called Betsy Ross dumb as a box of rocks. Yeah, he said it. Says she's white and dumb as a box of rocks. Rich, white, and dumb as a box of rocks. Now, if you would find a Republican that would make a statement like that toward, let's say, Nancy Pelosi or somebody, if they made a crude statement like that, they would be calling for his job and probably would be successful in getting it. But this guy, I never even heard of him. And I'm not even going to try to figure out and find his name, but I did see the fact that he is, along with so many others, pushing this myth that charter schools are the cause of finances not being available for the public schools in Detroit and other urban cities. Charter schools are going to be the rescue point of Michigan education, because they are turning out kids that are performing at somewhere near the expectations of what we used to take as just normal procedure, graduation day. That's what was normal in the old days, before all of this nonsense about the schools have to be politically correct and all of that nonsense. So, and the culmination of this assault against the Second Amendment and the First Amendment is because of what we are teaching, no, what we are allowing to be taught to our kids in the public schools. And it'd be my recommendation to take every kid out of these public schools and put them in charter schools or homeschool them, because you're getting nonsense out of the public schools, and it's right in front of us. You take this assault on the First Amendment by this young guy down in Florida, this hog guy, this camera hog, and I don't care what you say or what anybody says, he's being manipulated by the Democrat Party and the community organizers in the teachers union. I'd bet money that they are the ones. I mean, how else could you get a movement together and move all of those kids into a city? And these kids, they may have, their parents might be wealthy, but I'm sure that they don't have the kind of money to put on these buses and make all of these arrangements and things. So, yeah, we're being led to believe that these kids are leaders. Yeah, there's some kids with some potential to be leaders, but they don't have the experience to have the weight of the burden of leadership just yet, and it's proven by the fact that this hog guy was in a running battle with Laura Ingraham, because she said she mocked the fact that he was turned down by 4 or 5 colleges because he had a 4.2 grade point average. And maybe it was a little bit of a moment to take a little jest, but I don't see what she said as being to the point where this guy said that he did not even want to accept her apology that she graciously gave. And he said, well, I don't accept it. That shows you he's not ready for the spotlight, and he's not ready for the weight of the burden that he's willing to accept. He says he's willing to change the world. Do you know what kind of burden that puts on your shoulders? A 17-year-old kid? Well, now let's see. What did he say? He said, I'm not buying it. The only reason she is apologizing is because at the time, a third of her advertisers dropped out. It was only after that we called for the boycott that she apologized. Now, what I'm saying to you is that he's not learned to be at least gracious. He's not learned to be that he's not, it's the same thing that the Democrat Party. They don't know how to accept victory because they are constantly looking for complete, total annihilation of the opposition. They're not looking for a win here or there. They're looking for a complete annihilation of the Republican Party. She's only a bump in the road compared to what their ambitions are. And this kid has learned it already. So that is, and we'll get back to a little bit more. We got to take a break. If you'd like to join the conversation, the number is 734-822-1600, and we'll be back right after these messages.
You're listening to the Abolitionists Roundtable with your hosts, Del and Phil. They're exposing the left's underground resistance while leading the charge in the fight for liberty. Join the conversation at 734-822-1600.
Hello, I'm Milt, and this is, logically speaking, Uncensored, Zero Tolerance. In the lexicon of political correctness, zero tolerance means rejection of anything liberal, left-wing collectivists deem unacceptable. Liberal left-wing collectivist agendas have empowered and instituted zero tolerance throughout the United States and the world as a dogma of domination. The effectiveness of zero tolerance as a stratagem cannot be denied, as witnessed by the fact that principled people are bullied into silence, afraid to speak up, speak out, and say, do, or criticize aberrant behaviors, perversions, immoralities, or evil indoctrinations. And despite its totalitarian, oppressive disregard of civil entitlements, zero tolerance has been endorsed and received by a large segment of society, particularly in the citadels of academia and politics. I contend and stress that if zero tolerance is good enough for those who hate the United States, then it should be good enough to be used as a deterrent weapon against our enemies, both domestic and foreign, by patriots who cherish the United States. As the United States confront multiple internal cultural wars of incivilities and inhumanities such as murders by abortion and radical moral decay, the nation can ill afford the luxury of tolerance towards entities fighting to achieve our demise. Therefore, zero tolerance is an essential necessity. So, as a proud American who is not ashamed to proclaim allegiance and loyalty to the United States, I propose that the nation embrace the format of zero tolerance and apply it to all instigators and insurrectionists whose actions or deeds are detrimental to the United States, and especially to traitors and perpetrators of treason, both home and abroad. Under the jurisdiction of zero tolerance, trespassers who violate our borders should be classified as criminals and harshly penalized. And this should include green card and visa violators. Zero tolerance should also be applied to include anarchists and seditionists with provisos of incarceration and or deportation. So I implore all who love America to fight for that which is right and petition those in power to endorse and impose zero tolerance upon terrorists, environmental fascists, and climate change hoaxers, socialistic communism, hate America factions, children abusers and female genital mutilators, fake gender promoters, Democrat Party revisionist history, and all ideologies that advocate destruction, death, and violence upon Christians and Jews. If zero tolerance is implemented by the right people for the right causes and right reasoning, like the curtailment of our enemies, then it is a good thing, because zero tolerance against enemies of the United States is not a vice. I am Milt, logically speaking, uncensored, saying, think of it.
And thanks again to Milt Harris for sending over that sterling commentary, and we are. It is uncanny how closely the comments of Milt Harris is to my own thoughts. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue on, and again, if you'd like to join this conversation, that number is 734-822-1600, and the the assault on the First and Second Amendment is ongoing. But I was just looking, and today's show is just some of the things that I'm reading the news events. But I got this story about a woman is given 5 years in prison for, guess what? Illegal voting. She said she didn't know she was ineligible, but her name is Crystal Mason, and it says that her mother insisted that she vote in the 2016 presidential election, but when she went to her polling place in Tarrant County, Texas, she found her name was not on the rolls. A poll worker helped her fill out a provisional ballot of the sort given to people who aren't on the rolls, and she cast it. So here's the deal. 5 years earlier, Mason had pleaded guilty to tax fraud and was ordered to pay $4.2 million in restitution. She was also sentenced to 5 years in prison as well as 3 years of supervised release. Now, it says that Mason says she didn't realize it at the time, but by casting that provisional ballot in November 2016, she had committed another felony. Texas prohibits anyone convicted of a felony from voting and only allows them to vote once they have entirely finished their sentence, including any probation, parole, and supervised release. Now, here's the thing. We see the Democrats rolling around crowing about the fact that they have had a good year for recruiting people into the Democrat Party. I think in Pennsylvania the number was something like 70,000. One other state I heard they were up like 200,000 in the state. And all of a sudden, nobody's asking, well, all of these people, where are they coming from? So, so there is, in my estimation, a big influx of illegals that are voting. And if they look at those rolls and start checking and investigating, I would bet you money that they would find a lot of people that are not supposed to be voting, that have registered and are now voting. And I just heard that President Trump authorized the close down of the investigation into illegal voting. Now, I don't understand that. I wish somebody would put a bug in President Trump's ear and tell him that this is what they ought to be doing. They ought to be putting 5 years for just voting on a provisional ballot. I mean, that's outrageous to me, but that's the law. And that's the thing that Democrats are more afraid of than anything, people that are willing to enforce the law. And I think that the federal government should be enforcing the voting laws in this country and making sure that nobody nullifies my vote. And I'm sure you yourself out there listening would not like to have somebody nullify your vote in the next election just because they walked across the border or jumped across the river and came into this country. I'm going to go to the lines and pick up line one, and we got Gary from Hazel Park. Good morning, Gary.
Hey, Phil. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Hey, we've got to be careful not to fall into the trap that the Democrats like to set, which is they determine who we can criticize and who we cannot criticize.
Right.
They did it with President Barack Obama,
Mm-hmm.
and you couldn't criticize him because he's a black man. They did it with Hillary Clinton. They do it with people like John Lewis because he got whooped upside the head.
Yeah.
They do it with John McCain because he was a war hero.
Yeah.
Even this guy Khan from the convention.
Yes.
He was a Gold Star father, so we couldn't criticize him. I mean, these people can say all kinds of terrible, horrible things and rip into people and insult millions of people. And really, this guy Hoke, So we can't just not criticize them. We have to call them out. It doesn't matter who they are. They're still sovereign American citizens and therefore subject to be held responsible for what they say.
Oh, I am with you 100%, and that's why I led off with Guillory, because some of the things, I don't know if you heard the interview that Dell and I did with Mr. Guillory, but they've laid some pretty rough stuff on him, and he's fair game. But if he was a Republican, a Democrat, if some of the things that the Democrats said to him, somebody would go to jail. That's just how determined that the Democrats are with this political correct speech, and that's exactly what it is. It's socialism, communism that has crept into our everyday lives, where these people have nullified the First Amendment by words.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. It's become self-censorship.
Yeah,
there's nothing less, nothing more.
Yes.
And when you don't feel free to be able to say whatever you want to say, you couch your words and you hem and haw, and you say half truths, and you don't really get across your point. And that's the biggest problem with our politicians these days at all. They don't know what to say because they don't know if the Democrats are going to rip them a new one.
Yeah, and exactly what you say. If you can see it almost every day, when there's most of these shows that you see on television, they have some type of opposition, opposing opinions, and the Republican, 9 out of 10 times really is getting his lunch ate, because the Democrats are saying, they're just letting it rip. They're just saying anything that they want to say, where the Republican is always couching his words and hedging his opinion on things, because he's afraid of being called this name, that name, or saying that he's insensitive or he's mean-spirited. They got all kind of stuff to make you self-censor your opinion. And I'm with you 100%. Yeah, we have got to recognize it, and we have got to put a stop to it.
You better believe it. All right, my friend.
All right.
See you later.
And what I'm just saying, with this 5 years in prison for one illegal vote, this is the kind of thing that the Democrats are with the political correctness. They would just as soon say, well, she didn't know. She didn't know she was breaking the law. The Democrats used to be very, very strong on the fact that they would say things like ignorance of the law is no excuse. But I haven't heard them say that in years. Every law, they want a way around it. And we see it constantly. And you are the victim. You see, they play the victim. This is what the Democrats have known for years, that all they got to do is play that victim card, and they can get away with just about anything. And so when you hear them talking about Hogg or Hogue or Camera Hogg or whatever his name is, when they say he is a survivor, he is a survivor of a massacre and all of that. What they're telling you is that he's off limits. You cannot say anything about him. And the thing is, Laura Ingraham, if anybody knows her, she's got a very, very sharp wit. And I'm sure that she didn't really mean any harm to this guy or anything like that. But what she did was she pushed the humor button. And Democrats don't have any sympathy for somebody's sense of humor. And so now they want to round up all of the power that they can muster and aim it at her. And they're saying some pretty rough stuff about her. And former State Senator Guillory is just an example of some of the things that they call him. He called him an Oreo, called him Uncle Tom, called him uppity Negro, and things like that. And that's just the beginning. I look at people like John Lewis, who says that his whole career has been around the fact that he got smacked upside the head on a march and beaten when he was a freedom rider. And yet and still, you would think that the people that were responsible for the whooping on when he was a freedom rider, and the people that beat him down in Alabama when they were going across the bridge, they were Democrats. And what party does he belong to? What party does he defend everything that they do? There has never been an incident that when John Lewis was in the Senate, or even before, not the Senate, but in the Congress, and even before that, before he got to Congress, he defended the Democrats. And it was the Republicans that were marching along with him at the time he was hit upside his head. Those were Republicans that were marching with him. Nobody ever says that. But yet and still, John Lewis, every chance he gets, he defames the Republican president or any Republican representatives. He talks about them very badly, like he did with George Bush when he refused to go to his inauguration, like he did with President Trump when he refused to go to his inauguration. But if somebody had said that I'm not going to go to Barack Obama's inauguration, then he would have been branded a racist, a white supremacist, and everything else. And it wouldn't have been any excuse for him doing whatever he did to get to the point where he was talking, where they talked against him in the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party take no excuses and they take no prisoners. They, as I said, they don't share power, they wield power. That's what they exist for, is the acquisition and the retaining and the wielding of power. That's all they exist for. And we are going to go to line 1, and we have a very special caller on there this morning. We are going to talk to Dale Marsh, the founder of the Abolitionist Roundtable of Michigan. Dale, good morning. How you doing?
Good. How you doing, Phil?
Oh, man, I love the strength in your voice this morning.
Yeah, I'm doing a little bit better today. Yeah, I only got just 2 more treatments. I'm done, and I can't wait to not go to that hospital again.
Oh, I hear you.
Ever. Just do a follow-up, and that's it. But we're in the middle of I just wanted to mention to our listeners that we're in the middle of our fundraiser, and we're working on our website because we're changing over from the LLC to a 501c3. So if you go to our website right now, you're going to see that it's down. But Reverend Yule offered an alternative for our listeners that wanted to use a credit card. So those that want to use credit cards, if you don't mind going to joshuastrail.org, there's a nice memoir dedicated to Linda on there. Right below that is a donation donut. If you want to go ahead and make a credit card donation there, and just put it in the comment area, Dale and Phil, we'll get credit for that. But what I like to do is ask people not to go to the website. If you don't have to, just go to, just mail all correspondence to our P.O. Box 135, P.O. Box 135, Garden City, Michigan, 48135. Just write the check out to Art of Michigan. So that's all I wanted to mention. Phil, that we need their support. We're in the middle of our fundraiser. There's a lot of things we wanted to do this year, and we want them to be a part of it.
Yes, we do, and we certainly appreciate the cooperation from the Reverend Ewell and his organization. And we yes, and again, Post Office Box 135.
Yep.
And we can continue. We are going to continue.
That's right.
And but we would like to have the assistance of our listening audience out there.
Yes. Yep. So I'm gonna let you get back.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that, and we wanted to just say thank you to everybody that's already been supporting us.
Yes.
And we want to invite new people on.
Yes.
To support us also.
Well,
all right. You're on the right track, Phil. I'm going to let you continue.
Yeah. Thank you so much for giving a call in, and you sound terrific this morning.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. Talk to you later.
Folks, that was the co-founder of Art of Michigan, and we are going to be doing some things here. This is our busy time of the year, and we're gonna be doing things like going down to Cobo, and it's coming. Spring is coming, but folks, we also have to get out there and show our presence, because it seems to me that the Democrats are prancing around as if they have taken the hill. They act as if they have their foot on our neck. Well, you know what that means. We've got to get out there and show that we are going to keep this country what it is, the republic that the founding fathers gave us. We're going to keep our Constitution. We're going to defend our Constitution, and we're going to defend our right to bear arms. We're going to defend our right to freedom of speech, to say what and when and practice our religion as we see fit. And the only way we can do that is we got to get out there and keep those Democrats from taking more of this country and giving it away, because that's exactly what they have done. Folks, I'm telling you, we have absolutely got to get out there and support Patrick Colbeck for governor. We've got to get out there and figure out a way to get Pat Colbeck to be the governor of Michigan, because there seems to be an idea that there's only one candidate in this race. No. There is the best candidate in this race hasn't even begun to flex his muscles. So we are going to flex them for him until he starts to flexing his, because there seems to be a blackout on his candidacy. But that is what we need to do. Get Intervolio elected. That's who I'm
to continue the roundtable discussion.
Endorsing.
Correspondence to
Thanks for listening, folks. We will see you next week.
Garden City, Michigan, 48135.
Or follow Phil and Del at artofmichigan.com. You can also send emails to artofmichigan@hotmail.com. And most of all, continue to listen every Saturday and tell a friend.